Okay.
Okay, so let me. Hi there. It's okay. So uh, it's I I don't know.
There you are.
There we go. Hi there. It's Dale Walsh with Straight, Sane, and Sober, and today our guest is Robin Stebbins, who is a member of Purify Within and a former psychiatric nurse who is now a medication consultant and advisor for uh, natural solutions to mental illness. And thank you for joining us, Robin. I usually begin with a poem, so I don't have one ready. So I'll just do one of those that I have from memory, which is about my own journey. And it's called Dale Reviewing What Actually Happened. And it goes like this. Well advanced no, well advanced at becoming Bob Frost at Dartmouth, I my mind lost and was from Ivy League tossed, put into therapy at considerable cost to have my brain teeth flossed by the doctor whom he bossed. Every night after I get sauced, doing my duty at my post in the hospital where I was host and met the beautiful female Jill, for whom over dale over hill I trekked when I was ill until I found the perfect pill to keep chemical imbalance steaming still, uh, which made romantic chances virtually nil, even as I perfected my poetic skill, which I hope will continue to pay the bills as on sodas I continue to fill. So that's my introductory poem to people who want to know my about my history. So,
That's
uh,
pretty.
welcome, Robin. How are you?
I'm good. Well, thanks for the introduction. And I am still currently a psychiatric nurse. I'm still working in the field. And I still have my license. So
Oh, okay. I thought that you'd stop doing that. So,
no.
uh, okay. Well, how's that? How's everything today? Is I said you take a holistic approach to a natural holistic approach to medication and mental illness, correct? Is that
Well, I think you'd appreciate this, Dale, and that is when you're saying like let's let go of the stigma. How do we let go of the stigma of mental illness? Stop labeling yourself. You are not schizophrenic. You are not schizoaffective. You are not bipolar. You have a set of symptoms that is out of alignment. It's out of harmony with your body. And so the same thing, like when I do treatment, it's not holistic treatment because that puts it in another box. But what I see happening is you stop poisoning the body, or you get the poisons out of the body, and the body does what it does best, and that's heal itself. That's it. It's really quite simple. I mean, we've made it extremely complicated, and I think we can all see sort of the nefarious reasons for that.
right? Well, I I know that I'm sort of like putting myself on the line here, but I still take my medication every day. Although I titrated it down from 30 milligrams to 10 milligrams a day over the last 2 years, and To be honest, I don't know whether it's just like brainwashing or programming, but I'm very reluctant to stop my medication completely because in the past, every time I stopped, I would end up in the hospital within 2 weeks.
And I'm not saying that you just go off your drugs. You go
No,
off.
I understand that.
What we have to find out is what the root of the problem was. A lot of times what mental health symptomatology is, it's like mercury poisoning or aluminum poisoning. People are sensitive to varying degrees of the toxins that are in our environments. And by toxins in our environments, like in our field right now, the United States is one of the worst polluters on the planet. And the FDA allows pretty much any toxin into our food, cosmetics, prescriptions, supplements that you can imagine. They only ban 30. The European Union bans 1,300, 1,300. We ban 30 here. So let's just look at that from the jump. And if we see that, it looks like maybe it's a lot of toxicity. How do we get the mercury and the aluminum and everything out of the body? Once that's done and you're still having symptoms, then we go back to the drawing board. What else could it be? What else is out of alignment? Sometimes it's emotional stress that's ongoing, like a toxic partnership or a job that you absolutely hate or a boss that is abusive, on and on we go until we remove all of them. And then a lot of times what I've seen in my 35 years in the field is that the removal of the toxins coincides with the need for less and less medications, but it's done with a physician, it's done with the doctor's approval. It's not just, hey, I'm going off my drugs and hoping for the best, especially with any kind of psychiatric illness, because then you can also have in things like the suicidal ideation or the homicidal ideation. Those can be side effects of these things as well. Mercury toxicity, if you look at that, that's one of the side effects. And it's also a side effect of these medications.
Right. Well, I as I said, I've titrated down from 30 to 10.
That's wonderful.
And I had a friend who had it was some sort of toxic syndrome, and she couldn't be around cigarette smoke. And if she like was on a bus and someone had perfume, she was so sensitive that she would like get sick from that and everything. So.
That's what we're talking about. Those are the canaries in the mine shaft, I call them, Dale, because they're experiencing symptoms first, but they're toxic to everyone. So make no mistake, even if you're not experiencing symptoms, you're still creating toxicity in your environment. And so your body's not going to healing your body. It's not going to maintaining. What it's doing is just putting out fires of inflammation and toxicity, so that your body's not doing what it's designed to do. And that's heal itself or get rid of toxins or get rid of poisons, that kind of thing.
Well, how does one start to go about like detoxifying the body?
Very slowly, very slowly. First, you can do a heavy metal detox. Heavy metal detox to get out the mercury. Heavy metal detox to get out the aluminum. There's things like zeolite, but you have to be very cautious about what zeolite that you buy, because zeolite pulls in toxins, right? So when it pulls them in, it saturates itself with them. You want to open the door for Raul West? No, he left. Okay. But if it's already saturated with these toxins and you buy it, then you're not only not pulling out these heavy metals, you're also toxifying yourself even more with the pollutants that are in the zeolite. So everything has to be done with somebody, either your functional medicine or somebody that has done heavy metal detoxes in the past. Robin Openshaw, also known as Green Smoothie Girl, does a detox twice a year. People can join that. It's done with a group. It's done systematically, and it pulls out. So then the next thing we do is, do you have a overgrowth of, let's say, candida yeast? Do you have an overgrowth of fungus, molds, parasites? Like, all of these are present in our bodies at all times. I don't care if you live on the top of Mount Everest or at the bottom of a lake. Like, everyone's got these things in them, and they're necessary for our health and our wellness. So your gut biome and parasites actually pull out heavy metals. So if you eat a lot of, let's say, tuna, a lot of tuna is mercury toxic because they're bigger fish. They live longer. They eat smaller fish. So they have that can be very toxic. The parasites actually have been shown to pull this heavy metals out of our body. So everything in your body has a purpose. The key is that it needs to be in alignment. So when things are out of alignment, we look at, well, are you eating an excess of something like sugar? That's a really toxic thing that will get your gut biome out of balance. What else are you eating? Are you eating what I call, Dale, Frankenfoods? Like Frankenstein, but for food. So the food that is not food. It can't be classified as food at things like Subway and McDonald's and Jack in the Box, because it's chemicals flavored with more chemicals sold to you. And when you eat it, it damages those hormones in your brain. It damages the leptin and the ghrelin and all the hormones we probably haven't yet discovered yet. So all of these things go in, and so your body's constantly putting out these inflammatory fires instead of healing and creating a harmonious system. So those are the things that we start to examine. Those are the main ones. And then another one is, what's your fluid intake? How much of purified water do you drink? A lot of the water in the city taps is fluoride filled, toxin filled, that will actually damage your body more than anything else. So it has to be, it would be mountain spring water would be the best. Excuse me, Dr. Thomas Cowan found out that, like the heart is not a pump, it's a suction device. Same with the water. It swirls in a vortex pattern in nature. It picks up the sounds of nature. It's oxygenated by the sun and the moon and all of those different factors that make water living. So when we drink that, we are saturating our red blood cells with oxygen, and our whole body is becoming more vital. But the water that we're drinking, either from the tap or in these plastic water bottles, not only are we getting microplastics and estrogen and all sorts of other things that we don't want in our bodies, but we're getting dead water. So it'll never hydrate on a level that this living water will, and it's difficult to find now, as you can imagine.
Right. Well, how would you go about finding purified water? I mean, I use a Brita filter. I don't know if that's any good, but
there's a couple of options. One is you just get water delivered. Mountain Valley spring water is the best that I have found. And I'm not making a plug for them. I don't get any money. It's unfortunately the only one I have found that delivers it in glass carboys. And it's actually purified from the source. So you're getting actual spring water. There's a website on how to find springs throughout the United States. It'll tell you where all these underground springs are that you can collect your own spring water, which would be the best, because that's actually gone through natural. So then you just put it into your glass, take it home. The other option is those whole house filters that take everything out, and then they remineralize it. But to my gut feeling, that's not helpful, right? Like it's not natural. And I try to stick to as close to nature and things that are natural as possible. And I've seen everyone that does that and gets all the toxins and poisons out, they lose their diagnosis. They lose their disease. They lose their labels. Number one, they have to want to be able to lose that. Some people have so identified with those illnesses and diseases that they don't want to lose them. So that I like to point out, because people would be surprised that it's about 90% that don't want to get better.
I can empathize with that because but just to reiterate, Mountain Clear spring water,
Mountain Valley spring water,
Mountain Valley spring
delivered
water.
and always has to be glass.
That's another thing I was going to ask about, because they say if you keep it in a plastic bottle, the bottle just like decomposes in the water, right?
It does, and you get microplastics, and it sheds, and there's some like the BPA is the big one that everybody knows about. But there's all sorts of other chemicals in these plastics, and it's not regulated. So yes, it does leach into the water. So
Right.
lead-free glass is the best way to go.
Well, getting back to what you were saying about people are afraid to lose their diagnosis, I've sort of been guilty of that myself, because I mean, I was diagnosed in 1975, so I've been dealing with this for 46 years, and it's only in the last like 2 or 3 that I've really, people have really been saying to me, "You got to change your story, Dale. You gotta like, hey, stop saying you're schizophrenic." I don't know if you know Dr. William Pettit, but he says a diagnosis is where you are, it's not who you are. And I really feel that I
go a step further too, Dale. Like, let's go a step further than that. It's not. It's somebody made it up for an agenda. Right. So I don't have a diagnosis and a code if I don't have a drug first. So let that sink in. I have a drug first. Then I create a label and a diagnostic code for that drug. That's how it works.
To justify it.
Not only that, like let's look at just United States alone. We have the most sickest population on the planet for the industrialized world. So 1 out of 2 boys or 1 out of 2 kids has a chronic illness. 1 out of 2 adults has a chronic disease. 1 out of 23 boys has autism. We can't sustain that as a country. We can't, all of us cannot be sick. Some of us have to work. Some of us have to be healthy. And I would like to go back to the majority of us should be well and healthy and not have to have a PhD to find out where I can find fresh, pure, clean water. Right. It's almost impossible now to find water that is pure and doesn't have glyphosates, herbicides, pesticides, rodenticides, Agent Orange, on and on and on and on and on. Like, that's just what we know that we're spraying on our food and water.
So I'd like to get back to the microbiome, the gut biome. How's that figure into it, and is that does that naturally clean the toxicity out, or if it's working well, or what?
Well, the gut biome and with every system of the body, it's interrelated. So when you look at something like depression or mental health that they label, and again, I'm not into the label, but for argument's sake, let's say that you are experiencing this set of symptoms. First thing, and you're not happy with it. Some people are like, they just want to go crawl under the covers and that's it. They don't want to change any part of their life, and that's their choice. But for those that do, we look at the gut biome. So that would be everything in that stomach is in harmony. Your flora and your fauna, it's like you've got a forest or a whole planet down inside that gut. and in your esophagus. Everything is important. Your intestines are so sensitive and they pull out so many nutrients that you need. So all that has to be in harmony. If you're eating too much sugar, one part of your little forest is going to get out of balance, right? So if we kill all the predators in our environment around here, like let's say we decide we're going to kill all the hawks, well, then the mice and rodent population gets too big. And because they're too big, they don't have enough to eat. So they get sick and they're ill and they have diseases from the starvation and being too prolific. That's the kind of thing that we think about now inside of our bodies. So if we're feeding it too much sugar, then this type of bacteria will flourish, and this type of yeast will get out of balance. So then we're not digesting our food properly, and that can lead to all sorts of things. You have a whole brain inside your gut and inside your heart. You have actual neurons. I'm sure you know this, inside your gut.
Oh, I heard there are more neurons, I hear there's more neurons in your biome than there is in the brain, right?
And this is what we have been told too. So I feel that it's not like these neurons are more important than my heart neurons or my gut neurons. It's in my entire existence, my entire being. So if my heart has a sense about something or my gut has a sense about something, it's very important to listen to that. Because Dale, you have the wisdom on how to heal yourself. Or anyone, or your doctors, or whoever's you're giving the power to diagnose you, they don't know how to heal you. They know how to keep you in that narrow parameter. Here's your labs, here's your normal range, here's where we're going to keep you in, here's your box. That's it. Do they ask you, like, what's your diet like? What's your relationship with your parents like? What was your relationship when, what happened when you first started experiencing these symptoms? What was going on in your life? What was going on at your birth? What trauma did you experience? That's the kind of questions to ask a person. What's your intake of water like? What is your diet like? What is your social constructs?
Right.
What about your spiritual practice? All of these things make up who you are and this dynamic being that you are sitting before us.
So what you're saying is that not only is the body you have to integrate, but also you have to integrate with your environment. Is that correct? Or
and there's no separating it. We just have the illusion that we're separate, but it's a dynamic process. You can measure the heart 8 feet outside of the body with our rudimentary instruments. I'm sure it goes on thousands and thousands of miles. Look at our ability to communicate before telephones. We did it with ESP. People would set a table or a place for someone because they knew they were coming for dinner. You didn't call, you didn't say in advance. You just had that sense that they were coming. It was no big deal. It was like picking up a phone and calling and saying somebody's coming for dinner, but they just knew it.
Right.
We've lost that. We've lost that ability to communicate with our environment, which is us as well, communicating. The environment communicates with us, we communicate with the environment, but when we're glued to our phone or we're glued to these devices, we lose the ability to do that.
Well, what you're saying makes me think of quantum soup and the whole idea that everything is one and integrated ultimately by the universe into like one being or one planet or whatever, and my own history is of schizophrenia. As I said, in the last like 2 or 3 years, I've really been trying to consciously like break out of my mindset where, but I used to think, if I used to think I would say, if someone gave me the chance to be without my diagnosis, would I take it? And the answer was always, well, not always, but a lot of times was no, because it was like my personality has been so built upon, my feeling of the psychiatric programming I went through that, that it's very hard for me to like conceive of myself as not being suffering from an illness.
Right. Well, and also, Dale, it no longer holds you down to that low level of functioning.
Right.
Meaning, if I'm a survivor, and I hear that all the time. I'm the C word survivor. I don't like to say the words and give them an energetic vibration, but the C word. I'm a C word survivor, or I'm a this label, this diagnosis survivor. So what you're saying then is, don't expect too much of me. I'm doing the best I can. I'm a survivor. Instead of, all right, world, I am going to give you the absolute best of me. I am going to put my best foot forward. I am going to do everything I possibly can to do what I was born to do on this planet.
So I'm a thriver instead of a survivor, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm sort of proud of the way I've come out of it. I mean, it took me 40 years to come to a realization about where I was really at. But, I have a coaching business for the families of schizophrenics. And as I said, about 6 months ago, I joined an insurance company, and I'm an agent. I'm a licensed agent. And, the goal of my company is to spread financial literacy and to help people understand money so that they don't get in the binds that they often do with money, so, and I'm learning a lot there, and it's really like energized me towards life to be able to say that I'm a fully functioning citizen rather than just a recovered schizophrenic.
Great. And maybe just say, I'm just fully functioning.
Right. Well, I've always said that. I've always said that I might be a schizophrenic, but I'm highly functional. I used to say I'm in the top. They say schizophrenia is 2% of the population. And I'd say, well, I'm in the top 2% of that 2%. So I'm like even more special, So, but so I know this is one of your it's one of my big problems too, is the pharmaceuticals and the pharmaceutical companies and how they. I mean, I see it with my clients. How the doctors are so overwhelmed. I mean, I don't want to put down the doctors because I feel that most of them are very well meaning and intentioned, but uh, I just feel that like the pharmaceuticals are like coming out with so many antipsychotic drugs that the doctors can't keep up, and and so they just follow the pharmaceutical dosages. And I had a client who was a doctor herself, and she said, I don't understand this cookie cutting approach that the doctors take, because and it's just like the pharmaceuticals seem to be dominating everything, and I don't know what the solution is. I know that's one of your main concerns.
Well, I mean, I don't want to give any of the medical system a free pass either. It's not like they're helpless victims. They know exactly what they're doing, and they're profiting very, very handsomely from your demise and the people that they prescribe these drugs to. And you can see it. You can see it with the opioid crisis. And I never saw a doctor that was hesitant to prescribe them. And they would send somebody home with a surgery with 60 Oxycontin.
Right.
You don't need them for more than 2 or 3 days, but you're giving them 3 months worth. But that's getting somebody addicted, or the potential. And who are they going to come back to? They're going to come back to you to get your handwritten prescription. It's a system that is set up for those that have sold their soul for $1, meaning they know what they're doing. So do you continue to do what you're doing for a paycheck and status, and the pharmaceutical reps taking you out for golf and bringing you wine and giving you all these incentives? Or do you stick to your guns? And sticking to your guns means you'll probably lose your license. So
Right.
here you are, $200,000 in debt out of medical school, plus maybe $500,000, I've heard. And here's the game. It's just do this, prescribe these medications, symptom pill. That's all you got to do. And most of them have done that. But look around us. Look around us with our eyes, not what we've been told to see, but we are a sick country. Most people are now obese. 90% of Americans, Dale, have insulin resistance. That means our food is poison, our water is poison, our air is poison. And we're giving poison drugs to deal with those poisons instead of saying, hey, let's stop poisoning our people. How about that? And then we don't have to take these drugs. And we don't have to go in and find these victim stories and label ourselves. Because in that, I see that industry, and I see the psychiatrists and I see the doctors, and they are profiting from your illness.
Well, I was in a program for 5.5 years, at a private program, and I'm not going to say anything bad about the doctor because he's dead now, so I don't speak badly of the dead. But people, my friends in Hackensack used to call him the travel agent, because he would just like, take our money, and then once a year have a trip to Italy, and everybody would be happy. So,
Yeah.
but that I won't go into my doctors. That's another.
Well, that's enough said right there. Because that's not an unusual occurrence. That's pretty much every single one that I've seen. And there's a few shining examples of what we as healers went into this system for. And that's to get in, heal the person, meaning I'm not doing it. I'm just a conduit through which God works. But I look at you and I see, where are you toxic? Where are you poisonous? Where can we get rid of all of that? See what happens. It doesn't hurt you to remove toxins and poisons.
Right.
And look at how does your body respond then? How's your body reacting to this? And then the body heals itself, because it's like 911. If I'm here at my house and I fall and hurt myself and my head's bleeding and I call 911, they're going to come fresh. They've got all their supplies. They got a nice team. But if I call them 3 or 4 times a day, every week, every month, every year, they're going to get sick of it. They're going to be exhausted. They're going to be like, oh God, you again. No.
Right.
That's what we're doing to our bodies if we eat cereal for breakfast and go and get a sandwich at a deli for lunch, and then eat a fast food dinner, drink some alcohol, take some prescriptions for the headache. You're calling 911 4 or 5 times a day. So now your body's like, that's all it's dealing with is trauma. Drama. And then we go to jobs we hate, and in freeways that stress us out, road rage and this. It's no wonder we're ill.
So, how do you keep a positive attitude as a psychiatric nurse, seeing all this?
Talking to people like this, speaking my truth like this all the time to every single person. And every now and then someone will understand that their health is in their power and in their control. And they will take responsibility for everything that goes in their temple and their body, and they'll get well. That's what keeps me going.
And I guess it's pretty rare that people actually get well completely, right? Or does it happen more than people know, or is it?
It happens. I'll say it happens a lot in the private sector because people go in motivated. They go in not underneath the system. So they go in saying, I'm going to pay for this out of pocket. I want to get well. The success rate is 90% of losing your diagnosis, losing your illness, losing whatever it is you've become attached to. Whereas in the public sector, as a nurse, where it gets paid for by insurance or Medicare, Medicaid, TRICARE, veterans benefits, what I notice is that there's no motivation to get better.
But isn't it like a dilemma, because even in the private sector, the same doctors are treating you?
Well, no, because if you're going to be in the system and you're getting treated by doctors and you're in that system, yeah, no, you're not going to get better. If you go to the private sector and you work with, let's say, like you, a coach, or me, a coach, and I just show you what's possible. I say, go to your doctor and get off a statin. Statin drugs make you very, very, very sick. There's no reason for them. We've known for 15 years cholesterol is not the cause of heart disease. High blood sugar is. Chronic high blood sugar is the cause of all sorts of things like Alzheimer's and dementia, type 3 diabetes, it's called. But instead, we give people a statin drug. What does a statin drug do? Like Lipitor and all those others, it raises your blood sugar chronically. So not only do you now have low cholesterol, you have type 2 diabetes. You see this loop. So when you're in the system, you're in the system and you're taking their drugs and you're getting ill. When you get out of the system, you're like, hey, I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to start exercising. I'm going to drink purified water. I'm going to get rid of this stress. I'm going to do a job that I love, not something I hate. I'm going to make amends with my family. I'm going to have people around me that elevate my energy, not deplete it. I'm going to stop going out to fast food restaurants. I'm going to stop going out to eat. That's who changes. That's who heals across the board.
Wow. Well, I gave up my statins about 5 months ago. I didn't tell my doctor though. So, and I've had 2 blood tests since then, and my cholesterol is perfectly normal, even though
the lab values though, Dale. That's the other thing we got to remember. The pharmaceutical companies tells you what your normal ranges should be, and it's definitely not for your health. It's for an agenda.
Right.
So they can give you more drugs. But keep in mind, the healthiest, longest living people on the planet have the highest cholesterol.
Okay.
So be cautious of having low cholesterol. It's not a good thing.
So tell us about the Purify Within. Is it like a private group, or is it a collection of people, or is that just you?
Well, it's my business that I started so that I can do this grassroots. I go in, I have different things that I offer. One is I go in and purify your home. I change up your medicine cabinet. I put in things that actually heal the body, that don't harm the body. Like if you have a headache, first we don't ever just say, oh, here's something to take. If you have a headache, we figure out why. It's a warning sign. Is what is the etiology of that headache? Then there's other options that aren't going to destroy your liver or your kidneys. Like Tylenol kills your liver. Ibuprofen kills your kidneys. White willow bark, which is not patentable, you can't make any money off of it, it heals your headache. It takes away the symptoms, but you absolutely, if you get getting chronic headaches, you have to understand it's a message. We have to remedy that message, not
Right.
just treat it, not just treat it and take away the symptoms. That's what we're so programmed into doing. Here's a
Absolutely.
symptom. Here, what's my treatment? Right. So
And it's
instead,
always a pill.
always a pill. That the body's a beautiful messenger as to, hey, you have something out of alignment. Let's figure out what that is. Could be eye strain from looking at the computer without your EMF blocking glasses. It could be simple like that, or it could be something more complicated, like the stress with your spouse. They're constantly creating what feels like a vice grip around your head. Like they always also have emotional roots when we experience these symptoms. So that's one thing we do. I also offer coaching to help people kind of figure out where the toxins and poisons are, the energetic, the emotional, the social, the spiritual. And we look at that and we get rid of them out of the field, their environment. And then we stand back and the body heals itself.
This might seem a little off the wall, but is it true? Is it true? As they say that we have like five to 12 bodies all working together on different dimensions that or all have to be administered to, or
Absolutely. So you look at, even if you don't believe in that, or it's too woo woo, or you think it's off the wall, when you look at what ancestral trauma did I come in with, was I born with? While I was in my mother's womb, I was experiencing everything that she had experienced. Where did she experience it from? Her family of origin, and on and on and on and on back we go. So if you trace it all the way back, I'm experiencing the concentrated ideology, the energy of all of those family systems into my birth. So I come in with that. Then we
right?
look at epigenetics and all of the different possibilities that I have to express. Well, what are the ones that I express? Well, it's a combination between me and my environment, me and my spiritual energetic system as well. The energetic system that you can't see, the heart system that you can't see, that we can measure thousands of miles away from your body.
Right.
The frequency too, Dale, that every cell and cell process in our bodies creates. That's an energetic signature that if you and I were in person, we would feel that energetic signature, and our energies around our bodies would communicate. Mine would say, hey, there's a poison in the water, don't drink the tap water, and blah, blah, blah. We would just be giving each other evolutionary information. So, and the same goes with all of the other systems, all of the other dimensions that we don't see, but they're there.
Well, one of the insights I had about ancestral trauma and everything is that when I was like in my sickest, I just said, I'm not really sick. I'm just like, like taking care of the karma of my family, and
Not your job.
right. Well,
It's
I
not,
learned that.
yeah, not your job to take care of the karma of your family, but it's something to be aware of. And you can say, oh, that's not mine. I can let that go. That's
Right.
not your mess to have to clean up. You could just say, hey, that's for somebody else. I'm leaving that way outside of my energy field, not mine.
Right.
No, thank you.
Okay. Well, let me see. I just so what would you say is a solution if someone wants to get off medication but they don't know how and they don't want to do it just cold turkey and possibly have have like serious consequences such as a hospitalization or something?
Well, again, it's not like when you have been taking prescription drugs or over the counter drugs long term, your body has built a relationship with that drug. So we don't do anything abruptly. It's extremely gentle, slow process for people to get off medications. And it's done in a titration with a physician. Because there are certain drugs that you probably know, like benzodiazepines. Those can cause seizures if you just stop taking them abruptly, or any of the psychotropics, or any of the antidepressants. So when we're dealing with chemistry and the body and the blood-brain barrier, especially with these drugs that affect the brain, you have to build up such a potency in the bloodstream for it to cross that blood-brain barrier that you're dealing with a high toxic load. So that has to be done very slowly in conjunction. I always work with physicians that are awake and are in harmony with what we're doing, because everyone has to be on board with it, with this healing. And I even have family members sign contracts saying they will not sabotage the efforts and just say, hey, you need to go back on your drugs, or hey, let's go out for a beer, or oh, just take an OxyContin, it's fine. You shouldn't be in this much pain. No saboteurs. So all of that, you can see it has to be all in conjunction, all in a simultaneous effort.
Wow, there's a lot to think about. And so what would you say would be primary steps if a person wants to detox?
First, become aware of all of the toxins. And the awareness comes in where it's not just an egoic, the obvious. You have to be very aware of who you are and where you're toxifying yourself. What are your daily thoughts to yourself? What's your mantra? Are you constantly picking yourself apart, like calling yourself stupid, getting mad at yourself for losing your keys? You know, if you were your boss, would you quit, or would you be like, oh, this is a great job, I love it? Right. A lot of people would quit. They're like, they're so hypercritical of themselves. That's a toxin. What about the people in their surrounding environment? Are they too afraid to leave a toxic relationship? All of those things. So if somebody's not going to be self-aware and honest, then it's not going to work. So that's the first key. Self-awareness and the ability to say, okay, I'm ready to see what I need to see. So then we become aware. The first step is awareness. And a lot of times, Dale, that's all it takes. Because then you start to say, well, I don't want to take any more of these toxics or these poisons. I'm not in alignment with that anymore. And so you physically can't keep doing it. You can do it when you're lying to yourself. It's a lot easier to, as you can imagine.
Yeah. Well, you're giving us a lot to think about, Robin. The primary is awareness, and what's the next step after awareness?
And then it would be slowly titrating your way off of those things. Some people, it's easy just to quit drinking alcohol. They didn't really enjoy it in the first place. It was just something to do with their buddies, watch a game, drink a beer. Other people, it's become a habit. It's become a friend, and they don't want to let go of their friend. So it's a slow titration of what am I using alcohol for, and how can I fill myself without alcohol? Or why am I overeating desserts? How can what am I looking for? What am I seeking? What part of me is a hungry ghost that I'm trying to fill? And so it's more awareness, and then you slowly stop doing those things that don't serve your highest self. They serve to devolve your energy instead of evolve your energy. And so that's that slow process. And if it's prescription drugs, you get with somebody that has experience and a license that can help you. Because coaches, I love coaches. I'm a health coach myself. But as a coach, you're not qualified to get somebody off of benzodiazepine. That is out of your scope of practice, and that's dangerous. So make sure you are, and if it's the person wants to work with you and a physician, you and the physician are talking. So the physician's doing the titration schedule. You're supporting the emotional side effects of releasing those medications. And there are certain supplements that you have to use very cautiously, especially now, that can help with that detoxification and withdrawal process from a lot of these prescriptions. But when it's done slowly, most people don't even notice.
Right. Well, that's how it was with me. I went from 30 to 10 pretty success, and I also gave up cigarettes, marijuana, and beer, all cold turkey, and without any like Mr. Bill groups or anything. I just did it. I made a vow to my mother because she hated my partying so much that I was going to stop beer and alcohol after a visit to Oklahoma City. And so I went up to the bar fully intending to have my first beer in a week. And I sat down and I said, you know what? My mother hates this so much, I'm going to give it up. And I just made a secret vow to myself and to her that I was never going to touch it again, and I haven't.
Wow. How long ago was that?
That was in 2007.
Congratulations.
And
That's the thing, Dale, that you can identify with. That's power, that's strength, that's saying, even if you did it for your mom, she wasn't there at the bar taking the beer out of your hand, you did it. That's your power. That's what you can tap into with all of this, and tap into your gut brain's wisdom. Your gut brain will know how to do this. They will know the right doctor to contact. There's a lot of physicians that, they're in the system. The last thing they want to do is lose a customer.
Right.
So you got to find the doctors that are in this to actually help, that want to heal you, that want you to say, like, no offense, but I don't want to see you again. Right.
Well, most doctors won't do that, right? Most doctors are. The theme of my company's convention, which we had last week, was escape the matrix, and that's really what it seems you're saying, is that the matrix is like so overwhelmingly present that it's very hard to get out of it. But if you do, then you're going to be fulfilled in life.
Well, that brings up a good point, in that in the matrix, nothing is really truly satisfying to the soul because it's not real.
Right.
The soul is not satisfied by the fake, the electronics, the virtual world, the metaverse. That is not real. It doesn't satisfy the soul. It drains the soul. And when you look at these kids now on their virtual reality screens,
right,
it's just more like they look depressed and dejected, and it's a very dangerous thing that we're signing our children up for, I believe.
Right. Well, giving everybody a lot to think about, Robin. Thank you very much. I think we're just about out of time, but thank you very much for being here. And any parting or final thoughts that you'd like to share with us, just to, because you've given us so much to think about with the toxic. I'm sure I'm not overwhelmed, but I'm sure that it's overwhelming to a lot of people because it's just like, too much to think about, and to get out of the matrix, it seems like it's overwhelmingly difficult.
It's not. So understand that Rome was not built in a day, and it's every 4 days do one ridiculously simple thing towards your goal, but you have to know where you want to go. Do you really want to be healthy? Maybe that's the first question to ask, and ponder that for as long as you need to. But in parting, I think what I would love for anyone that watches this video and for your audience to know is Trust yourself. Do not give anyone the power to diagnose and label you. Don't give anyone the power to tell you who you are. Tap into your heart, tap into your gut, your wisdom, your divine power. Trust your voice. That's what I would like to say for everybody. And then it's not so overwhelming. It's just one little tiny thing every 4 days.
Right.
And I also
give up Subway.
It's not even food. So it's like that would be a good start. Start making food at home. Start knowing, like I tell people, if you have to read a label, don't eat it. They're like, well,
Right.
now I have to start reading labels. Dr. Tom Cowan says the same thing. It's like, well, if you have to read the label, don't eat it. If you can see how it grew out of the ground, fell out of a tree, or walked around, that's food. If you don't know what it is, or something like corn oil, like I don't know how you would get oil out of corn or cottonseed oil. No, that's frankenfood. It's done in a lab. Stay clear. That's it. And then you start tapping into like, oh, common sense. I see it. You can start to like see is like, okay, it's not that overwhelming. And I don't need like 25 books. Like I can just trust nature. Nature gives us the blueprint.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Robin. It's been very fascinating and very thought-provoking. I'm looking at the comments, and not a whole lot. I think that people are just like sort of listening. So, but thank you very much for appearing, and I hope maybe have you on again soon.
That sounds great. I appreciate the opportunity to be on here, and it's always nice to check in with you, Dale.
Well, thank you very much, and it's mutual. And have a great night. And I guess we'll end the podcast now.
Sounds good. All right, Dale. Take care.
Hold on. So So it's over. Oh, okay. No, it's not over.
We're still on the live.